Ah! Seo Munpyong groaned and touched the area of his back, where he felt intense pain. He felt a hole the size of a finger on his back. Seo Munpyong looked at Pyowool. Dark red blood was dripping down the index finger of Pyowool's right hand. Seo Munpyong then realized that the hole in his back was caused by Pyowool's finger. You bastard! So you've been hiding your level. Seo Munpyong gritted his teeth and straightened his back. Fortunately, only his muscles were punctured, and his internal organs remained unharmed, so he can still move. Seo Munpyong looked as if he had been fooled by Pyowool. He assumed that Pyowool had learned martial arts, but he did not expect that Pyowool would be so great as to deceive his senses and approach him. If he had known that the level of Pyowool was that high, he would have been fully alert and prepared. Why, you picked the wrong opponent. Seo Munpyong took a deep breath and strengthened his muscles. Then muscles with the shape of a wire tightened the wound and stopped the bleeding. Anyone would find the sight unbelievable even if they saw it with their own eyes. 7-Step Soul-Chasing Fist. 1. The technique with the terrifying name is capable of harvesting the soul of the opponent before taking 7 steps. Since one's body needs to be trained to the limits, it enabled him to perform impossible skills. One of them was Seo Munpyong's tightening of muscles to close the wound. The nickname of Little Boxer was not for nothing. In fact, it is backed up by his inexhaustible physical ability to project powerful force. Fat. Seo Munpyong kicked the hallway and ran towards Pyowool. It was such a terrifying rush, as if a bison was speeding. He shortened the distance in an instant and approached Pyowool's nose. Chot! His fists exploded like a cannonball. Once the attack with condensed energy hits the opponent's body would be crushed and destroyed to the point of being unrecognizable like fish meat. But that's only if the attack hits. Huke! Seo Munpyong's face contorted. Pyowool managed to avoid his fist by a narrow margin. The distance was only a finger away. If Pyowool's figure had disappeared in an instant, like when Seo Munpyong received a blow to the back, his pride would not have been so damaged. Are you making fun of me? Suik. Seo Munpyong executed his 7-step soul-chasing fist twice in succession. This had a more powerful attack than a single blow. But then again, Pyowool similarly avoided his attack by a distance of a single finger. Bastard! Seo Munpyong's anger exploded. He strikes again. The 7-step soul-chasing fist has numerous layers or steps. With every attack made, the internal energy contained in the attack increases, making the power amplified exponentially. 2 strikes is more terrifying than 1, and 3 strikes had greater power than 2. And the final 7th strike boasted more than 10 times the power of the first strike. You monster! Pyowool instantly grasped the secret behind the 7-step soul-chasing fist at once. Since with each swing of Seo Munpyong's fist, the power rises noticeably. Bang! The wall of Divine Fragrance Pavilion bursted open even though Seo Munpyong's fist did not touch it. It looked as if a bomb had exploded in the area. Pyowool realized that if Seo Munpyong was left going wild like this, there would be nothing left of the Divine Fragrance Pavilion. Seo Munpyong had to be subdued before he could exert the full power of his technique. Sight! Pyowool used Snake Step to simultaneously approach and evade Seo Munpyong's attacks. Seo Munpyong clenched his teeth at the sight of Pyowool, who was at his nose in an instant. His movement is so weird. He couldn't feel him at all, even though he's looking right at him. The strange footwork resembling a snake, as well as the movement he used to avoid his attack by a distance of a single finger, was completely out of the ordinary. None of the martial arts he knew had anything like this. It was a martial art that completely denied common sense. Seo Munpyong quickly stopped attacking and went on the defensive. However, Pyowool broke through his defense like a snake. Like a snake that tenaciously digs into even a small gap, Pyowool forcibly squirmed into Seo Munpyong's defense style and penetrated into his space. Cook! Seo Munpyong's complexion turned white. Tutututak. At that moment, Pyowool's fist pounded Seo Munpyong's whole body. It was a light punch that seemed dull, unlike Seo Munpyeong's seven-step soul-chasing fist, which contained a powerful force. It was as if Pyeowul was just lightly tapping his opponent's body. However, the result of Pyeowul's light punches was very disastrous. Arf! Seo Munpyeong collapsed with a scream. His body was grotesquely bent. It was terrifying to see his limbs bent in different directions. Croak! He clenched his teeth and struggled to get up, but there was no strength in his arms and legs. All of his joints were dislocated because of the huge impact. It was an attack that applied the human body destruction technique. Point 2. If Pyeowul had applied a little more force, the joint area would not have been just dislocated but entirely destroyed. The reason why Pyeowul handled the situation with his own hands was because this place was the Divine Fragrance Pavilion. If he killed Seo Munpyeong, he would be safe, but the Divine Fragrance Pavilion could not escape his anger. He could not lose his base he had worked so hard for. For that reason, Pyeowul stopped and temporarily disabled Seo Munpyeong without killing him. However, the shock that Seo Munpyeong received could not be expressed in words. He was confident in his power enough to be called the little boxer in Jeonhu, but the fact that he was suppressed by Pyeowul, without even being able to fully perform his technique, made him despair. Why, you? Seo Munpyeong could barely raise his head and stare at Pyeowul. He looked at Pyeowul as if he wanted to devour him. He could not believe that he would one day suffer such a horrific defeat from a mere owner of a brothel. The unbelievable reality made him despair. Pyeowul looked at the secretary and said, "Put that away." Pyeowul treated Seo Munpyeong like an object, not a person. Yes. The secretary quickly bent down and supported Seo Munpyeong along with the other servants. Seo Munpyeong just stared at Pyeowul and didn't say anything. He felt unbearable shame. Even 10 mouths could not excuse his defeat. No matter how bizarre the opponent's movement was, the fact that he was defeated did not change. Although he was distracted by a prostitute and committed a shameful act, he was still a warrior. He didn't want to blame his defeat on others. Pyeowul looked at Seo Munpyeong for a while, and then took Soohyang to the annex. Who? Seo Munpyeong closed his eyes. He had no excuse. It was his complete defeat. Anger welled up in his chest, but he couldn't do anything. The secretary together with the other servants of Divine Fragrance Pavilion dragged him away like luggage. Due to the sudden commotion, all the courtesans of the Divine Fragrance Pavilion opened their doors and looked at him. They were the same courtesans who looked at him with admiration yesterday. But now their gazes seemed to contain hate, as if looking at a bug. It wasn't really like that, but Seo Munpyeong felt that way. This short moment of him exiting the Divine Fragrance Pavilion felt like hell to Seo Munpyeong. The general and servants grunted and took Seo Munpyeong to his inn, the 4C Pavilion. As soon as they arrived at the 4C Pavilion, Nung Son ran out in surprise. What happened? Who made you like this? Nung Son asked, holding Seo Munpyeong. But Seo Munpyeong kept his lips closed and didn't say anything. Pyong, tell me. Nung Son asked once again, but Seo Munpyeong kept his mouth shut. He was not going to answer the question no matter how much other people asked. In the end, Nung Son gave up asking and told the owner of the guest house to call a physician. The thing that happened to Seo Munpyeong seemed unusual. Then we'll be on our way. The secretary of the Divine Fragrance Pavilion stepped back carefully. If it had been the usual Nung Son, he would have interrogated the secretary to find out what exactly happened. But he had no choice but to let it go for now, because he was busy. Meanwhile, Won Jae-young was watching them from one side. Won Jae-young had a frown on her forehead as she looked at the back of the secretary and servants as they left the 4C Pavilion. When Won Jae-young saw the attire of the secretary and servants, she recognized that they were people who worked at a brothel. The clothes of those who worked in the brothel were a little more glamorous as compared to the usual servants. And there's a unique smell of brothel's incense ingrained in their body. A look of contempt appeared on Won Jae-young's face. Seo Munpyeong came from a brothel. Even if she didn't see it with her own eyes, she could tell. If a man had fought someone in a brothel, it was definitely because of a prostitute. It was clear that he had bumped into someone over a courtesan. Seo Munpyong, a promising member of Jianghu, has returned to such a miserable state because of a mere courtesan. Wan Jiayang wondered who made Seo Munpyong like that. Although he is an object of her contempt, she also acknowledges Seo Munpyong's martial arts achievements, to some extent. If it was enough to make Seo Munpyong in a state like that, she could guess how great his opponent was. Are there still such experts in Chengdu? As far as she knows, since last year's bloodbath, there have been no other significant warriors in Chengdu. This is because most of the warriors who could be called masters refrained from their activities. Wan Jiayang frowned. By any chance, one assumption came to mind. Asterisk. Recovery followed quickly. The workers of the Divine Fragrance Pavilion quickly repaired the broken hallway. Fortunately, the place where Seo Munpyong caused a riot was the boundary between the main building and the annex, so there was little damage. Su Yang supervised the workers repairing the hallway. Who? She sighed. The collapsed wall could be rebuilt, but the paintings and decorations on the wall had to be replaced. What was really difficult was to find decorations suitable for the Divine Fragrance Pavilion. It was a job that had to be accompanied by artistic sensibility and discernment, so it could not be entrusted to someone else. She had no choice but to do it by herself. Su Yang's face was filled with suspicion. It was surprising that there was no disturbance from the other guests, despite such a great commotion. At least one person should have stuck out their head and looked outside, but strangely, none of the guests at Divine Fragrance Pavilion paid any attention to their location. It was the same with other courtesans. No one even screamed. It was something that could not be understood by Su Yang's common sense. But she immediately shook her head. It was the job of the man she served as her master. He was a person who made no sense from the very beginning. From his non-human appearance and mysterious abilities he occasionally shows, everything about him was hard to understand. Su Yang thought that Pyoul would have done something this time too. That was then. Is this the right place? Suddenly, a woman's voice came from behind her back. Su Yang felt the hairs all over her body stand. When she looked around a while ago, she had confirmed that there were only workers. Su Yang looked back quickly. Then she saw a beautiful woman looking at the broken wall. Who are you? Let's say that I'm a colleague of a maniac who came back from being humiliated here. The woman was Wan Jiayang. She found out about this place by inquiring about the whereabouts of the secretary who had stopped by the 4C pavilion. People who were captivated by her beauty simply informed her that the secretary was working at the Divine Fragrance Pavilion. Thanks to them, she was able to find this place easily. Wan Jiayang looked around and said, "It's quieter than I thought." Pardon? If the area is broken like this, all the guests would have run away already, but it's quiet. Isn't it strange? Ah. Su Yang let out a gasp without knowing it. Because she was thinking the same thing. But she soon realized her mistake. Because it was like admitting to Wan Jiayang what happened here. Wan Jiayang was intelligent and had a sharp eye. It was impossible for Su Yang to deceive Wan Jiayang, no matter how experienced she was. A dark smile appeared on Wan Jiayang's lips. Can you guide me to the owner of this place right now?